mentioned Coach Reed and his group, but all of y'all remember Clyde wrapped up his education at Shorter College in Rome, Georgia. And I've got to recognize the table from, they're not from Rome now, they're everywhere, but they're right here. If they would stand up, please. I'll go ahead and embarrass you. There they are. Okay. Those are the guys that he went with after he left you guys. So they spent a lot of time together, and his roommates here in that group also.
Go sit down. Well, some people say you can never go home again. Well, I strongly disagree with that, because look around. So many of you came home tonight to honor our friend Clyde. And to the Shorter boys, you made the journey to Clyde's hometown to give him that honor. And I just have to say that I'm so proud to stand with all of you here tonight, old friends and new friends, and just thank you for being here. Clyde Purnay Hatcher Jr. is his name. To most people in Lumberton, he was known as Clyde, except for the guys who called him Little Goat. To the boys from Shorter College, he was known as, Linda says, Purnay. I remember meeting Clyde when I was in the 5th grade. He and Linda lived down the street from me. I admit I had very little contact with Clyde as an adult, but I do have a lot of fond memories of him. And this is what I know. I know that he was a twin, and Linda was that twin sister that he loved so much. I know that Linda was born 10 minutes before Clyde, so she would always refer to him as the baby. I also know that when Clyde would introduce Linda to his friends, he would say, "That's my sister, the one with 2 backs." In later years, he would say, "This is my twin. Now you tell me which one is the best looking." Well, I know what a good looking guy Clyde was. In fact, there was probably not a single girl in Lumberton High School that did not imagine themselves in love with Clyde at least one time. I know how athletic he was. There was probably not a sport that he could not excel in. I know he was a huge fan of Duke basketball, the Dallas Cowboys, and Tiger Woods. I know that 2 of his favorite foods were okra and key lime pie. I know how proud his parents were of him and how much he loved and cared for them. I know my memories include playing in the neighborhood, chasing the mosquito truck on our bikes, hay rides, woodside pool, and cheering for him in high school. I know that at one time he had a green paisley shirt, white buck shoes, and he smelled like ivory soap when we slow danced. That's what my kids grew up knowing. There was a guy in my life that smelled like ivory soap. I know what a sweet, sweet personality and gentle spirit that he had. I know how so many of you guys looked up to him and that he was an idol to many of you. I know that he was Linda's rock when Wesley was sick. I know that Brian was so special to him and that Clyde taught him the things that only a loving uncle could do. I know how much he was loved and respected by so many people. There's evidence here tonight. I only wish that he had known how much he was loved.
In 1964, they had the they had the senior prom at the Tanglewood Elementary School. Clyde, who was probably one if not the best looking guy in high school, didn't have a date. His date was me. which was, what a downer, that's right. And what we did was, it was in our neighborhood, and we climbed to the roof of the adjacent building, or what was one of the buildings of the school. And we sort of watched the festivities from the top of the roof. And we thought we were okay until they started playing up on the roof. But nobody looked up our way, and that's how we spent the evening, which is I'll never understand it, what we were doing up there. But that's what Clyde chose to do on the night of the junior senior. And when I think we were juniors that year. That's what we did. I spent most of the time on the football team on the bench. And I remember in our senior year, Clyde was not only the quarterback, but he was the safety. And probably, I don't know if they kept statistics, but I think Clyde led the team in tackles, because our defensive line was not the greatest in the conference, and they usually got through the linebackers, and Clyde was the one who'd bring the guy down. So in addition to being the quarterback, he was in for every play of the game. And that's pretty rough, to be the quarterback and calling the plays and being the safety. And then Coach Brooks had put in these exceedingly complex plays. I guess he was kind of frustrated when we lost so many games, and then he thought he'd try to jazz it up a little bit. And I don't know how Clyde could master all this information. I mean, I was much better in math and some stuff than Clyde, but he was truly brilliant the way he could master. And these days, they didn't have things on their arms that taught them how to call the plays. Clyde called all the plays. So we went in at halftime, and I asked Clyde how he was doing, and he said, I got a problem. I said, what? He said, it's time for Falk to score. I said, what? He had it tallied in it. We had two great running backs. We had Ronnie Ivy and Sandy Falk. And Clyde had to make sure that one of them didn't have more touchdowns than the other one. We were playing golf on a very, very hot, typically Lumberton summer morning. Neither one of us were playing very well. We rounded the first 9, and we finally got to hole number 12. And Clyde was up first. First shot, right in the water. Second shot, right in the water. He doesn't say anything. He just walks off the tee, and I get up and I hit my shot, and he goes over to a little bit left of the green. And just after I finish hitting my shot, I look over, and Clyde is stripped down to his underwear. And I see him take off, and he dives into the water and swims to the other end. Now, something I would not do in a million years, but this was Clyde. It's great to have everybody here to remember this wonderful, wonderful guy.
I got to know Clyde and Linda when they were in the 2nd grade, and Linda was in my class, and they separated the twins because Linda was so damn domineering. And Linda was my first kiss on the mouth. I was sitting in my desk innocently, and she came back and gave me a big kiss right on the mouth. I thought I was special, except by the end of the first 6 weeks period, she'd kissed every boy in the room. I don't think she stopped that till about middle school, or I guess junior high. But thank goodness, Wesley, she did eventually stop that. But I'd go over and play with them on 7th Street because I lived nearby. And I remember the famous ditch we used to play down there. We would follow Linda around like two little puppies. I mean, she was definitely always running things. But most of you probably didn't know what great outdoorsmen Clyde and I were. Our outdoors activity was frog gigging. I don't know how many people have ever been frog gigging, but we got into it seriously about our junior year of high school. Me and Clyde and Ronnie Ivy, Ronnie's the one who started all this. And besides, Clyde and I were too squeamish to cut their legs off. But that led to another activity we enjoyed. Clyde and I used to double date a lot. And I always drove. He was always in the back seat. I think that's because he was more active than me. But we would go to these farm ponds, and we would tell these girls that we were scouting the pond for frog gigging. And Clyde comes up, and we're eating lunch, and we're eating a lot of it. We must have been at some college buffet. And he talks about, he must have been playing football at East Carolina then, because he was talking about what wonderful shape he was in, and that he thought he could run a 60-second quarter mile. Well, I would always, challenge him on that. And I said, I bet you can't run a 65-second quarter mile. So right after we finished that buffet lunch, we went over to the track in Carolina, and he ran a 62-second quarter mile, and then he puked. God, I thought he'd never stop puking.
Let me tell you a story that Clyde and I, was an experience we got to do. Most of you probably have never heard of it because it happened outside the confines of Robinson County. Our summer of our senior year going in, Clyde was president of the Key Club. I happened to be treasurer. And why, I don't know, but both of us were selected to go to Dallas, Texas, to the International Key Club Convention. God, we were excited. Now, it had stops in Atlanta, Georgia, in the original Sin City, New Orleans, Louisiana. We went to Hamlet, got on the train with the rest of the Eastern North Carolina contingent, and we head to New Orleans. We had heard somehow, somewhere, that there was a strip club there that had naked ladies. And by God, we were going. So we just broke off from the contingency. We did ask the guy at the front, said, "We here's a strip club." He says, "Yeah, it's right down there on Bourbon Street." I said, "What? How far?" He says, "Believe me, you won't miss it." Well, we didn't, because within a block, out of the second window came a naked lady swinging out over the Bourbon Street. Well, we walk in and they say it's a 2-drink minimum. Well, I was like, I don't know what to drink. Clyde doesn't either, but we already have seen several naked women and we're back out, we're going to stay.
Clyde's VW, tonight we were talking, he drove a Mustang, but this Volkswagen, I remember one year down on campus, there's a picture in one of the books, and we said, let's take Clyde's car and turn it sideways in the parking spot, because it was a Volkswagen, and we did, and Clyde got upset for some reason, but he didn't yell at us, but we did physically pick up, because it had those little high bumpers on it, you know. I don't know what year it was, but we actually picked it up in the parking spot and turned it sideways on campus. But he was a little PO that time.
How do you have friends that you're with, like Grady said, for 2, 3, 4 years, and there's something that sticks. There's something that sticks. That person's always a part of your life, okay? And Clyde's always been a part of my life.
When he came to Rome, I don't think he had learned a whole lot about the world, and I tried to teach him some stuff about it. I will say this, one thing Clyde really enjoyed was when the fair came to Rome. Because I don't know over here if they had one, but in Rome they had something called a hoochie coochie show. Purnay loved to go to hoochie coochie show.
King David wrote this. He said, "My suffering was good for me, for it taught me to pay attention to your decrees." And the Apostle Paul said, "He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others when they are troubled. We will be able to give them the same comfort that God has given us." Thank you.
Let everybody know now that you love them. I know that if Clyde Hatcher were here right now, that he would hug each one of you, but I never met him that he didn't have the biggest smile on his face, and I enjoyed Clyde Hatcher, and I know he respected me. I'll tell you 2 things that happened. I never called your daddy goat because I knew that any man that hired me, that he deserved my respect. Well, I didn't know that a little later on that I would have Mr. Goat's child in 8th grade PE class, so we turned around and what did I do but break his arm? And I remember one time that all of you guys know that when I handled Mr. Brooks' JV team, we'd lock that door over at that little gym and we'd do what Coach wanted to do. But we decided we'd work on free throws one day. And so all I did was line the guys up, and you know it's a whole lot of different shooting free throws when you run a little bit or when you're just standing there shooting. And I said, okay, you shoot, go to the back of the line. You shoot, you run if you miss. Well, it was just a small gym, guys, so it doesn't sound as bad as it is, but Clyde came to me 3 or 4 years ago and said, Coach, I ran 100 laps that day. Clyde was just a pleasure, and if Clyde were here right now, he would, I know he's smiling down on us. I thank each of you that had a part in bringing this program together. Thank you so much.
And I promise you, there's nothing going on at Buckingham Palace this weekend like this. I wanted to give y'all a short lesson on what it's like to be a twin. This is the only time, Pat, that 1 and 1 does not equal 2. 1 and 1 with a twin is 1. It takes 1 and 1 to be one whole. In other words, I have my own identity and Clyde has his own identity. But for the rest of my life, and from the beginning of my life, I'm always going to be connected to Clyde. And even though he's not here with me physically, I know where he is spiritually. But that's good because I'm now connected with him spiritually, even more so.